Hello, Padraig O'Brien, back to you again. Today we're going to talk about a wonderful plant that comes out this time of year. It's just high enough to start picking it. It's wild garlic, also known as ramsons. It's a common name. The Latin name of the wild garlic is Allium ursinum. And I'm going to show you another one that it often gets mistaken as, and that's the three-cornered leek, which is related and can be used in a lot of ways. In the same way you can use it similarly in a lot of cooking, etc. The wild garlic itself tends to be a little bit more potent in terms of its garlic qualities, and it is a different shape. So you can see here the leaf, when you pull it, is a kind of a spear-shaped leaf, and roughly around the 4 to 5 inches. This is a good time to pick them, and you'll see behind me there's a big carpet of them in this woodland, Ballyseedy Wood, our local woodland. So for centuries it's been used for medicinal and culinary uses. So I'm going to show you a little later back some of them culinary uses and medicinal uses. But I suppose just on its own, once you pick it and it's in pristine conditions, you can just eat it as it is. I use it often as an alternative to lettuce. It would have chive-like taste. It has all the antibacterial and antiviral properties that all the other garlics have. So the reason I've come here is that it's in quite abundance, but also it's important to pick it off the beaten track, so where dogs haven't been walked or where it's not near a road. The wild garlic will tend to be more in woodlands. The three-cornered leek, that guy who I said is its second cousin, twice removed, has a tendency to be more in hedgerows, and oftentimes is a garden escape, and it finds its way into people's gardens. People find it quite invasive, and therefore they don't often like it being in the garden, but again it's quite edible. So all parts of the wild garlic, bar the root, are edible. So at the bottom there's a little clove, so similar in size to the one clove of garlic of your normal culinary garlic. The stalk, the leaf and the flower, when it emerges, are all edible. So the flower will have quite a little bit of a kick to it. So I'm going to do a few recipes later on. So one being a wild garlic pesto. It's probably quite popular. So you're using a hard cheese. It can be Parmesan or Goubine hard cheese. Any hard cheese will do. Then I tend to use an olive oil, but I think you can use rapeseed oil and other oils as well. And then some type of nut. So pine nut traditionally is used for making basil pesto. So pine nuts are suitable, walnuts, hazelnuts and cashew nuts. So any or all of them can be used as an ingredient. Some people add garlic, but I don't feel the need because it's quite garlicky enough. And then you whiz all that, so the cheese, the oil, the nuts, and 2 good handfuls of the leaves once they're picked. Whiz it in a blender and you have a lovely pesto. This will last for quite a while, so if you put it in nice clean jars and then put a small bit of olive oil over top of it, it will seal in and keep it fresher. So another method is using the same leaves. So in all of them you should wash them, towel dry them, just pat them dry with an old towel or a new towel, and then you're going to chop them up and preserve them in honey. So this was often used by the old monks as a cure or as a preventative method for coughs and colds and things like that during the winter. So honey is a natural preservative. So once they're clean and there's no air bubbles, they'll store for indefinitely in the honey. Another way I'm going to show you is, if you don't want to use them straight away, or you want to do a little bit later on, is you'll get a lot of the leaves and store them in a jar in oil. So we'll have two benefits. You can use them whenever you need them. You can pull them out and put them in soups and stews and different dishes, or make more pesto later on. Or you can just use them in sandwiches and just take the oil off them. But you'll be able to use the oil as a garlic oil as well. So you'll notice as well that the wild garlic won't tend to be eaten by slugs or snails. So any of the garlic family tend to have their own inbuilt anti-slug and snail properties. So their garlicky taste is what the slugs and snails don't like. So also as an insect repellent, so if you have wild garlic around the house, so if you want to rub it on your skin, particularly if you're prone to midges or anything like that, it will give you might have a slight greenish tinge, but you're going to have a little bit of protection from the midges. So they're not going to go near you. So, and the other uses I often use it for is to plant some of it around places like your polytunnel. So you're going to it's going to act as a kind of a fortress around which slugs and snails won't like to go. So they'll assume, I think they will assume that your polytunnel is also full of inedible stuff, so it's going to put them off it. So it's acting like a soldier around some of your more delicate plants. So you can see when you pick them around this size, they're usually nice and intact, like there's no blemishes or anything on them. So if you can be a little bit discerning when you're picking them, it will save you having to sort out a lot of them later. So some of them will have blemishes, some of them will have bird poo or different things on them, so just try to avoid them and just go for the ones that seem to be very intact. So again, you'll need around 2 good handfuls of them, and if you'll be picking for a while, so if there's stalks on it, don't worry. And I'm going to try to get one where I can show you the actual bulb underneath. So the bulb is only, as I said, equivalent to one of the cloves of a garlic. So I tend just to, if you have excess ones, just use them in salads, use them in sandwiches, and they're nice in burgers as an alternative to lettuce. So as I said, just make sure you try and get off the beaten path, and just to be aware of anything else that could be poisonous that you could eat at the same time. So a common one would be bluebells, so just try to avoid them. A good way to know is the smell. So they'll actually have a garlicky smell. So if you're unsure, always trust your nose. And once there's a garlicky smell, you know it's usually the wild garlic. I'm going to try and find, as we're going along, any of the other things that might be around that you could possibly confuse them with. So around here there is, I know there is some cuckoo pint or lords and ladies, which is poisonous. The leaves are semi-poisonous, and the berries, when they come later, and you don't have to worry about that now, are extremely poisonous. So I'm just going to show you. So this guy here is the lords and ladies, the cuckoo pint, Aramaculatum. A very interesting plant, but quite poisonous. So I was saying the leaves are slightly poisonous. The berries, when they come out later, are extremely poisonous. The cuckoo pint produces an awful lot of these kind of spear-shaped leaves, and they will eventually produce another structure, and in that the spadix and the flowers appear. Their pollinators are flies, so they produce a smell not unlike rotting carrion. So it's equivalent to a small mouse or animal that's decaying, and they also produce a small amount of heat. So in that way they attract flies, which pollinate the plant for them. So the wild garlic, if you want to bring a little bit home and grow it on in your garden, that's doable. So you can wait till they go to flower and seed and collect the seed. and grow it from seed the following year, or you can pull up some plants with roots intact and bring them home and plant them in your own place. So it'll save you maybe going to the forest every year to forage, but you'll need a decent amount for things like the pesto, so you're probably better off to come to a forest, and I'd always just go at the premise that you just are picking enough for your own needs, so don't over pick it. Our local forest, Ballycity Wood, it's quite prolific, and by picking some of it you're probably given a chance for other plants to kind of compete with the wild garlic, so it's kind of become fairly pervasive within this woodland. So the other guy, which isn't up at the moment, is the bluebell, and sometimes people can mistake the leaves of the bluebell. The leaves are much longer and they won't have that garlicky flavour or aroma. So they're the two things just to watch out that people might mistake the wild garlic for. So I was saying, if you want to propagate it, you can pull up the whole plant, and underneath will be the bulb. Likewise, you can wait till the leaves come out, the flowers and the seeds, and collect the seeds. There'll be little black seeds, very similar to the onion seeds or spring onion seeds, and you typically, per flower head, will get clusters of 3 seeds growing together. You can wait till these go brown and they'll come off very easily on your hand, and you can plant them, as I said, you could scatter them in your garden under apple trees, or you could wait till next year and plant them in pods and plant them out. So you have, this is the last day of February, so they typically come out around mid-February and are gone maybe about 2 months later, depending on where you live and stuff. So I'd advise to come out and pick them this time before they go into flower and before the leaves start fading, and I think you get much healthier leaves. But any of the time, even when they're in flower, they're still available to pick. So it's a relatively long season, but you'll find that it goes quite quickly. So if you really like the taste of them, it's worthwhile to kind of store a few of them in oil. So I'll show you later back in the kitchen. So I'm just going to go picking now, and I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to continue again in the kitchen a little bit later. So these are a few that I've picked, and I've just dug up the bulbs. So you can see the bulbs are slightly elongated, but they're about the size of a garlic clove, and it's these that, if left in the ground, will kind of self-propagate. So they'll asexually reproduce. They'll just spread underground. So they spread in 2 ways. So the bulbs will just divide and also will set seed. So as you can see behind me, it's fairly successful around this woodland, and instead it's kind of out competing a lot of its competitors. So as I said, them cloves or the bulbs can be washed and used as an alternative to garlic. They wouldn't be as strong as your shop bought garlic. They'd be a little bit milder, but still they're very much edible. So you could make a light garlic butter with them or something like that, or you pop them into stews and stuff. So as I said, it's no harm to have a few of them growing around your own garden. Just watch that they could become a little bit invasive if let go too far. So presuming you'd always be picking them every year for culinary purposes or other purposes, and that you keep them under control. So the other way you could use them, I forgot to say it before, is to make a garlic spray. So instead of using shop bought garlic and blending it with water, you could blend a lot of the leaves and stems of the wild garlic, and it'll give you a similar effect. So you'd be using that garlic spray to deter insects. So you'd be using it as an organic pesticide. Okay. So I've just come across one of the flower buds. So just to show you what the flowers will look like when they start to emerge. So it's a little white spiky flower, and the three-cornered leek, the one I was saying that's quite similar to it, has a white flower as well, but the flower of the three-cornered leek look more like little small bluebell flowers, so they'll be quite different in appearance. So as I said, the flowers are also edible, so, and they pack a little bit more punch than the rest of the plant. So as I said, they make a nice garnish on salads as well. So you can see just in the midst of the wild garlic here, there is some more of that lords and ladies. So just to be aware that the shape is quite different. So it's an oval, spear shaped, and you'll have them two little things at the end, whereas the wild garlic is quite singular. So it has just one, it looks like the head of a spear, and they wouldn't be as big, but the lords and ladies can vary in size, but just so you'd notice. So not in every woodland, but in some woodlands they can be coexisting quite closely, and later when the white flower comes on the wild garlic, the lords and ladies or cuckoo point doesn't have that. But as I said, if in doubt, use your nose. So by crushing up any leaf of the wild garlic, you will get that wild garlicky smell. So it just trust your nose in that. So again, they are quite different, but we don't want anyone making any mistakes. Okay. Just as we're passing now, just another intro. Sorry, an interesting plant of note. Sorry, I dropped the phone there. And this guy is the wood anemone, the little white flower. It's quite a delicate plant. And beside it is the celandine. So both of them are early woodland flowers. So they're kind of good indicators that spring has sprung.